Hey everybody, welcome to Kate Quinn Sew Steady Facebook Live on Sundays. And we feature Westerly products and Sew Steady products. And I'm so sorry, I apologize for being tardy. I was trying to make sure that I could present in a way that helped people see how to quilt on actual patchwork. So that is what I'm doing today. And I'm going to show you the thread that I'm using. It's purple, it's light purple. It's going to show up maybe on this yellow, but on some of these other ones, it may not show up quite as well. In particular, on this area, it isn't going to show up very well because this space is very, very busy. And that's just something that I can't control unless I used a really ugly color on there. So I'm not doing that. So I hope you'll forgive me. If you have trouble seeing, what I will do is try to be very close to the work, okay? We're gonna quilt this whole thing. That's my plan eventually. It's not huge, but it is an actual pieced product. There's a seam here, there's a seam intersection here, there's a seam, big knotty one right there, a bumpy one. And then each of these greens, these have the intersections right here, this seam to this and this one. So there's always a little bit more going on. And that's probably one of the biggest concerns or complaints that we have. And I'm no different. I have that same problem. So I may make it look easy sometimes, but on the actual quilt, it is a little harder. So I've been asked that several times this week. And I'm going to feature, as we're working through this, both the Fun and Fancy collection and the collection from the sampler set. So those are a lot of classic shapes plus some fun, more advanced shapes. So we'll just quilt a little bit today. We probably won't get through the whole thing, but we'll kind of work on a little center patch and then we'll move along. So this particular one, this is the Circles on Quilts number 21, and this is from the Fun and Fancy set. Okay, so this stitches out at 7.5 inches. You can't see it really good, but that's the size, right? The tape is right there, and it's kind of messy under there, 7.5. So before I start, I can just put it on here and see, will it do what I want? Do I want quilting to cover all of these lines? Do I care if that design crosses over, or do I want to put something separate in here? This particular one sews for design orientation. So for example, if I centered it right here, it's going to fit pretty well in this portion right here in the yellow, right? And that would also mean that I don't necessarily have to do a lot of other quilting in this yellow either. I can maybe echo this a little bit and then be done. So I think that I will choose that. And here's another reason why I would choose that. If I start with a design where the needle is right there in the center and this is bulky, that can be a challenge. So right out here, this is fairly flat where the needle is going to transition. Plus, I already have the marking lines. I don't even need anything as far as the crosshair square. I can actually use the piecing lines. So we'll start with that. Okay, let's put our needle right in the center, our pin in the center. Let me grab my pin. It is right here. Okay. Woohoo! This is my handy dandy pin collection right there. Just take one of those out. Those keep them from falling everywhere, and I've trained myself to put them away. So we need the pin right through there. The back of this is incredibly busy. So we'll have to do our best to try to find it. Push it all the way through. Okay, it's all the way through there. And now I'm going to have to go underneath and get it all set. So give me just a second. You can see right there. Woohoo, I can find it. Yes, it made a hole. People always ask me that. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It'll all go away after we quilt it and then we steam it or whatever. All of that will just go away. Okay, so I'm working hard to get it right through the center, right? It's through that little pinhole on the back, but I also want it right through the center here. So I'm going to manipulate it just a little bit so I can try to get it right through the center. Okay, it's right there. That's what I want. All right, now let's talk about quilt management, because that's the biggest thing with all of this, right? Yeah, it's easy to just do a little square. I need this up on my quilting surface. I can't have a lot of the quilt hanging down below over there, pulling the edges. So get this up on here, get it up on your Sew Steady table if you need to, and make sure that it's not dragging you. I'll put this on the pin, and we are going to sew from A to B, just like we said. Right here is A, right here is B. Let's see, there's a little glare there. Let's see if we can reduce that a little bit. Is that a little bit better? A right here and B right here. There's an obvious stop right there when the foot hits that spot. So the other thing that this shows us, right, this is all layered up. I'm looking back here, I've got everything on the line. But when you have a quilt that's kind of big like this, you can't really twist and turn it. You really have to let it stay in the same orientation each time. So let me just make sure my height is good. I think we're good now. That bobbin does not want to pull up, of course, because it's short, but I'll get it. So if you have trouble sometimes getting your bobbin to come up, there's two things. I'll show you one. This is easy. A lot of us have tweezers around, you know, in the sewing room. So you can just pull that up with the tweezers. And if not, if you try to pick it up, make the needle go down a second time so that it creates a little knot. And then it actually will drag that bobbin right to the top. So you'll have to untangle it, but it'll work. I've got these right here holding, and I'm lined up. I'm on my ruler work setting, and here we go. I'm bringing the entire sandwich with me in this case, right? Okay, so right here, let's get these threads out of there. I don't want them following me. So coming right back down to B, actively changing directions. Notice that my hands are wide, okay? That's helping me to get everything to come with me, all of this. I'm right in my position for B, so we'll rotate. I'm going to go ahead and get those out of my way. Got to find my pin again. So right there, I'm going to kind of massage it so that my center alignment is right in the seam, because I want to use that seam because it's the most practical visual spot. Now here we're sewing side to side, okay? So I'm going to choke up my fingers a little bit here and go back the other way. Right to B, and then turn this and get it lined up. A little manipulation, a little smushing, making sure this is open. Looks like that seam is just a little bit closed right there, more than I would want it. It didn't open as nicely as I want it to. So this is spray basted, so I'm actually just going to hold it and I'm going to quilt it open because I can. Right? So right here as I hold this and I lay it on there, now that seam is a little bit more open. I'm using the stable tape to just keep it that way. And then I'll just start going the other direction right here. Nice and easy. Okay, and I'm going to connect it to the one on the other side. That's the one we need. It is a little hard to see, but it's actually right there. So if you have trouble visualizing what's in back, you can do just a small turn like this. Nothing big, but now I can see right back there just a little bit better, and that will help me as I go in. It does look like a 1/4 inch to me from here. Looks fine. And if it isn't fine, I'll just fudge it, right? Okay, I think it's perfect, but to make sure that we tie it off, I'm just going to take a few stitches right in the existing stitch line right there. Okay, when we tie it off, needle up and foot up. We're done with this part, so we can just go ahead and cut the threads now. We've already done some micro tacking. So let's make sure where I'm aligning right there. Look inside your foot. And with this machine, I even have this awesome needle wheel right up front so I can really get my needle right where I want it. And when I pull this loop, there's the bobbin thread right there. Okay. So one of the sides is long. That's the side attached to the bobbin. I want to trim the side that is tight right here. This is the one that's connected to the quilt. So let's grab my scissors, which maybe has wandered off. All right, let me find one. I always have an extra. Oh, sorry, bumped you. Don't get dizzy. All right, so we'll tie off those first ones, cut those, and we stitched a little bit further. Okay, so I love it. What do you think so far? We haven't done very much, but I like that this changes the shape, and I think this would be something we could easily echo if we wanted to. I have some different templates that are similar in shape, but maybe a little bit bigger. As we go, I'll show you some other things that we can do, but we want to keep today fairly basic use, right? Nothing complicated. Now, this center panel, we didn't ditch anything in here, right? This quilting is already taking care of pretty much what's in here. But now we have this space right here. So we're going to go ahead and put a little echo in there, a little ditching and an echo. The distance from here to here is about 1/2 inch. So I can use that, and that will create a little bit more fullness and put a little detail right here in the center. Let me share that with you. You can use your 12-inch arc, very easy for ditching, and you need your spacing gauge, okay? Those are the two most important things, I think, for this. Let's see, Honey helped me. He put everything handy. So here's my spacing gauge. Spacing gauge. Now, let's talk about ditching, right? Because we got some seams we have to manage right here. This seam right here is the mountain on the purple side, and on this green and yellow side, that is the valley, right? So let's check it. Oh, let's see. There's a little sharp thing right there. Let's take that out. Ah, don't leave those in there. That could be trouble. All right, let's just put him away safely. Worth doing that every time. Okay, so we said that the ditching is right here. Okay, so let's see where it is right here. It's on the purple right here on this side, right there. And then it's on the purple this side. So it actually changes right here. So we're just gonna make sure that we know which one we want. We'll start in the ditch on the outside here, and we'll talk about how we transition. I don't like to start right in the corner. I don't want to connect up and have my tie off be right at the corner. I think that's too much bulk there, and that just makes it harder to control a nice smooth closure, especially if I have seams going in there. So right now the needle is on the green right next to the seam right there. Very close. We'll try to get in a little bit tighter so you can see, okay? I know it's hard to see in there, but you'll be able to see right here as we align. Okay. Because I'm on this side, there's a little gate right here, a little fence that I can actually butt my spacing gauge right up to. Now, let's mention for a moment that the needle is in there, but if my seam is waving along, then maybe it'll be too wide in other places. See that? So where is it still good? Right there. Okay, and you can see it's not correct here. This is because the seam may bow. I need to follow the existing seam and stitch along. Okay, so we've got our needle in the right place. I usually check the first stitch or two, and I'm going to keep stitching until it looks like it's starting to get too tight. Okay, then I'll correct it, go a little bit further. Okay, I'm right in that ditch. Oh, guess what? It's bulky right there. It is, I admit it. I'm not perfect either. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this, And I'm going to use my stable tape here, and I'm going to gently push a little bit to give a little bit of pressure along that seam to get past that bulky spot. Okay, I still have to have my foot low enough that it doesn't cause any flagging. And if there's, too much space with the foot raised up, it's going to have poor stitching. So one of the things that's interesting is this seam might be flipped right there, because right here, this is on the inside. That's pretty common that might happen. So I'm going to go ahead and change us up to get onto this other side. Notice now that there's not a convenient gate on this side, right? I can't butt the edge of that because it'll just fall off. If you want that gate, you can switch your ruler to the other side. Okay, just like that. And I think we need to maybe get one stitch, so I'm just going to gently correct right here to get onto the purple side. And I'm testing it. I'm making sure that I'm right in the ditch. I don't want to sew a long way and then find out, oh, I missed it, right? So I'm just going to push this along nice and easy. Right as we get to the corner, it is a little bulkier. And I'm watching right inside there to really make sure. Plus, this pressure right here can help to open that seam just slightly so that we can stay on the correct side of the ditch. So I'll come out just a little bit more so we can see. Now we have to go the other direction. Fortunately for us, this is the downside right here. So I can line this up. If I see that this distance is not correct, probably I'm not right where I need to be in the seam. But if I am, which I think I am, then I'm going to adjust my ruler and I'm going to just take the first couple of stitches here so that I can try and be right next to that ditch. I, again, don't want to sew a long way and then find out, wait a minute, I'm not on the right side. So check a little bit, sew a little bit more. On this side, I think it's much more difficult visually. I'm pretty far away from the sewing machine compared to how much I would normally be. Okay, so very bulky right here. So just wanted to do a little massaging, get that opened up, and then we'll just keep on going. So I'm using my thumb here. I'm using my stable tape. As I navigate over this bulky area, I'm just going to have to give a little bit of pressure at a time. See how it kind of pulled that? You can also just lift up your foot, kind of massage that a little bit. I'm right in the middle, right? And making sure that my needle's in the right place. Okay. Now, I know this seems like that takes forever. It really doesn't. I mean, part of it is we're in this teaching mode right now. If I was just sewing this, I wouldn't necessarily have to stop and explain and show and reposition. I would be able to sew a little bit faster. And there's an additional tip I'll give you. When I'm looking down the line of the ditch, if I see that my needle is getting too far away or too close, I can just take a very small adjustment in the pivot of the ruler. I don't necessarily have to put my spacing gauge on there every single time to redo that and make sure that I know what I'm getting, right? Because I have a good 1/4 inch eyeball. I can see if I align this and it's wider than a 1/4 inch, I can tell. And usually I'll be a lot closer and right on top. So what happens when you're going backwards like this? What do? So remember what I said? You can just cant it just a little bit. You're still going to line up everything with your spacing gauge, with your ruler. And now you can see just a little bit at the angle, and you're looking through the foot just like you would normally be. And I think this one's actually easier because I'm pulling towards me. So I can just make everybody just come towards me. Both my hands are working together and I'm just pulling backwards. If I need to manipulate the quilt sandwich, make sure that this is up on my surface, make sure it's not dragging, then I'll adjust. Okay? All right, so looks like I got a little bit far away from my ditch, so I'm just gonna make the correction. So right here, bulky, you can hear it. Pulling with this finger, a little bit more pressure here. Trying to pull smoothly and evenly so I don't flex my needle too much. Okay? As we move a little bit more forward, I'll get that lined up. And we'll just go right down that ditch. So I can tell it's a little wider back here. So as I get close, maybe that seam was pressed and flanges out a little bit. So I'm going to make my needle follow that ditch because I can see that it got a little wide. I want to get right in my ditch to the corner. And then again, on this side, the ditch is right here. You can see that this part is folded over. So I can line this up like this, and we'll use that spacing gauge against that gate. If I see that the needle's just a little further than I want, I'm just going to pivot the ruler to bring me a little closer to the seam. We're getting right through this bulky area right here, so I'll kind of scoot this over a little bit. Use my spacing gauge. Both hands are going to help me navigate through there. Just pull ever so gently. I don't want to pull really hard, but I can keep on going and get right through that intersection right there. Oh. Okay, so let's see. There's my little gate. I got my spacing gauge bumped right up against it. And it is bulky right there. We'll tie it off. Just like we tied off before, I'm going to stitch a few stitches beyond where I stopped and go right over the existing stitches right in the ditch right there and tie it off. Okay. So this is more of a custom style quilting that we're doing right now. I do want to sort of follow the piecing pattern and put some different elements in here. If we wanted to, we can do some cross hatching right here in the purple. So we'll just do one corner. And the way that we'll do it, we'll put a nice arc in here that's a little deep, and we'll only do about 3 different areas right there. In order to do it, I'll go ahead and I'll ditch right across the top here after we have done the cross hatching. The reason I want to do it afterwards is I can use the ruler to clean up any area. Like I know I want this yellow to be totally ditched all the way around, but let me show you, we do need to travel a little bit with our crosshatch across this straight top, and then we can use that and clean it up after we're all done. So I would orient in a way that would let me crosshatch easily. So we want to have one ruler kind of go this way and the other ruler will come back on that side. Just that little bit of an angle will let me hold it pretty easily. Okay, so this is the 12-inch arc. Okay. When I line it up, I want to come right to the corner of my stitching. This is where that spacing gauge is super handy. I can just lay him right on there. The flat side of the spacing gauge is against the template, right? And then the little tip, let's see if we can get you in a little closer. I'm going to tip the camera a little bit so you can see better. Okay, somebody asked me to point this out with my stylus, so I will try to do that. If this is aligned right there, the very, very tip right there of this blue, the very point right there, that is the 1/4 inch. It's not that the needle would measure outside of it like that. It's this actual tip right there that you would be measuring against. And then if the ruler is flush, then that's exactly what you need. Okay, so let's put this in. It's not a super deep arc, but it should be good and visible for you guys. So I'll get right to that corner and then just turn the ruler the other side. I'm not rotating my quilt sandwich, but I can easily line this up right at the corner. Okay. So 2 hands, I'm kind of going side to side. I really like 2 hands better for side to side movement. I think I have better control that way. So getting right to the corner of the purple. Now, we need to travel a little bit. We're out of our zone there. See, here's the challenge, right? How can I let you see it if it's back there? Let's see if we can just pivot this a little bit so you can see better. How is that? Hopefully this will keep everybody seeing the whole thing. Let's see, there is a question. Let me see if I can answer that real quick. So Carolyn, I did start in the middle. I quilted this right here. This is the Circles on Quilts spinning wheel number 21. So I started right in the middle, and then we ditched this purple box right here, and we're doing some cross hatching to emphasize this area. Okay, so we just went from the corner to the corner with the 12-inch arc, and this area right here is not stitched in yet. So we can use that and just come up just a little bit. We're going to do a 1/2 inch cross hatch. So I'm going to try to travel right on the yellow right in there and just go up enough. What am I looking for? I need enough room that I have a 1/4 inch right there. If this is a 1/2 inch spacing, then this is a 1/4 inch on the foot, and that's another 1/4 inch. I can check that by laying the first line right here of the ruler right on the stitch line. So if I just tip this, there's the stitch line right there. I want to lay the first line of the ruler right on it. And I think I probably need about 1 more stitch to do it on the top side. Okay, it was good on the bottom, but up here, not quite. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to stitch down until I touch the line. Okay, I'm going to connect it to the existing stitch line right there. And now I'm going to sew back that same 1/4 inch. Right there, I'm estimating how much space I need so that I can sew this other side. Okay, so I'll lay it on there just like that. Make sure my foot is touching when I stitch. Okay, I'm going to come down and close this side, and we'll go all the way back up to the top. I'm getting right in my ditch right there at the top. Okay, so I'm in the yellow and I have to travel a little bit on this side. Okay, spacing gauge gets me there too. So how far do I travel up? Again, we want that same spacing, right? We want approximately a 1/4 inch. I'm looking at the distance from this curvature to the foot. I can test it. If it's too far, too short, whatever, I can always move up a little more. And that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to stitch in until I touch the furthest line, all the way to the bottom, the boundary line. And now I'm going to come back up, and again I'm looking for this 1/4 inch between this line and the foot. Okay, and then I'll line it up. If it lines up and I'm on the existing stitch line, but my foot isn't touching, the foot has to go back to the ruler on that stitch line. Okay, then we'll come down and close the arc till we touch, and then we'll go back up to the top. And get right into the yellow, just crossing over that purple. So what do you think? Do you think we want 1 more line, or what do you think? Should we do 1 more? It's empty here. That's what would make me want to have more crosshatch. This is kind of closing. This is small, but I want a little bit more of this diamond shape. So I would travel a little bit further right on the yellow, moving up until I have that 1/4 inch space between my foot and the existing arc right there. Okay, then you can line it up, come down until you touch. Slowly, because I don't want to overshoot that. And then we'll come backwards, and we're looking for the 1/4 inch right there from this line to the foot because I want to be able to put this arc on there. So I think that it can be tricky to realize what you need. If you're not sure, just take that ruler and put it on, and if you can't make it fit, then give yourself a little bit more space, and if you can, then you're good to go. Remember that the ruler is the guide, okay? All right, so I think that looks pretty awesome. What do you think? I love this shape in general, and we could certainly cross-hatch this whole thing. I mean, there's no reason not to. That lets you travel all the way along. So that is really just personal preference, up to you. I'll cut these. And then let me show you the cleanup process. So if I was done and this is all that I'm going to do, what I'd want to do is ditch this entire line. So I'm going to use the spacing gauge and try to close it up right on top of the stitching that I've already done, right on that yellow. Let's see if I can, I think I need one more stitch to get up to the yellow. There we go. So right in that ditch line, I would go around. That's going to get me to this next one. I can go ahead and do the cross hatching on this and fill up all of this and then do the next one, and then I would ditch the whole yellow section all at once, all the way around. And then this frames that center area and gives a little bit more detail in there. And then I do think that this would need some additional cross hatching. So let's talk about that. We were just talking about we wanted to put some echoing in there. So let's get the quilt up on the surface. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this thread because I would want to go ahead and put all of the detail in all of this, but I'm not going to waste your time by replicating the same design. We're going to put the 1/4 inch echo in on this side. So I won't even tie this off. Well, yes, I will. I guess I will. I don't want it to come out, so we'll just go ahead and tack it. All right, clean up my work area, no loose threads. And then with the whole quilt up here, we're going to put the 1/4 inch echo inside this yellow. So anytime that we're doing that, we can use the 12 inch arc goes up to a 1 inch spaced echo line. If you want to do larger echo lines than just 1 inch, I recommend getting one of the larger straight rulers like the 3x8 or the one from the Flower Power set, which is 2.5x8. And I'm pretty sure that this will connect me right to the corner right there. Yeah, perfect. So I'm actually going to manipulate that. If it doesn't get me right to the corner of the design, I'm going to fudge it because I want to be very intentional about the look between these two areas. Okay, so put this on. It's a little fudgy. I can see it's slightly bigger, but a lot of that can just be my piecing. So right on this side, again, I want to double check and make sure I have the 1/4 inch right there from that. So it's a little short, but it's going to work out. It's all going to be fine. Notice how I'm using 2 hands to move side to side. I feel like if I'm going this way or that way, I'm a little bit weaker, so I want both of my hands to work together when I'm going side to side like that. So from the inside, I can't do it that way. I need a bigger space. I need to go from this side. So I would use my spacing gauge and I'd get back there and measure that other corner as best I can. So I have that 1/4 inch right from the edge. And actually that one looks really good. It looks perfect. So just pull everybody towards you. If I feel like so much pressure is out here, I can adjust my hands and I can pull the quilt up a little bit, get it up onto the surface so that it will behave. I want to try to get right to that point before I stop. right there where it's touching, I don't want to try to, stop short and adjust the ruler. Try to make sure you have enough room to keep this as smooth as possible. Okay, I'll flatten this out. I do have the quilt pulled up a little bit. The roll is right there. Here, put this behind. And again, checking that 1/4 inch right there. Looks good. Everybody looks like they're behaving. So here we go. Again, we're moving side to side, so I'm using both hands to try to get right to that corner. Okay, now we will have the tie off in the middle, just like we talked about before. I prefer that. I think it's easier with my spacing gauge to close this and connect it. And I don't want a big bulky tie off right there when you've got all these designs intersecting already. So I'll lay this on here. I'm going to use my spacing gauge, keeping it flush with the edge of the template, and try to get the right angle to bring it right over top of the existing stitches as best I can. Look inside your foot as you go, and right there, just tacking those off slowly with some small stitches. Okay. Okay, again, tying that off, securing those stitches, and now I can cut that. The reason I like this method is if you pull your bobbin thread up and you trim it, like right there, I didn't have it quite all the way pulled up, so there's a little tiny tail. But now I don't have to go back underneath the quilt. There should be no tails remaining on the bottom of the quilt for me to have to go back and cut later on. And I do appreciate that. If you have a large quilt, you might have 50, 100, 200 tie-offs depending on the complexity of your design. So it's worth just doing it one time and not having to go back. Okay, so let's put some other designs in here. I'm not sure what we'll do. This one right here, this is a 4.5 inch square right there. So let me pull one of these templates out. I think this would be fun. I think we could do something right here with this, and we'll put that on there. This is sewing out at 5.5, and we can probably put some additional elements in there. Here, we'll put the needle right where the seam is, right? It is bulky right there. It's a little bit bulky, but not too bad. But that'll let you see what happens when your needle has to come right in, and you can see this is 1 seam, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, these are all pressed to one side right here. There's my little ditch right there. This right here is actually open right here in the center. I think it is. Feels very flat, so we'll see. Some of them are open for different reasons and some of them are not. This is the Spinifex number 8 from the Fun and Fancy set. And I'll give you guys an option to choose. When we have the Spinifex, one of the cool things about it is it lets us pick either way. We can do the design like this, where this is a little bit bolder, and we could even use our piecing. We could make one side a line like this and do one on the other side, and that gives it more like a little tulip or flower. What do you guys think? We'll do that. I think this is random roll theory right here. I just said, okay, I'm going to make this side match. It will not sew out right here beyond 1/4 inch. There's a little gap, but it's not big enough that it'll sew into the yellow. And then when we do it on this side, we'll do the same thing. We'll align it so it's got that same random rule on this side, and that will help to fill up this space nicely, okay? All right, so here we go. So a little bit bulky right there. I'm activating those stable tapes, giving good pressure right there, right into the tip, and then we'll change directions. I'm actually kind of gathering a little bit of the quilt here with my fingers, right? I'm making everybody come with me so that it doesn't slide on the ruler. Getting right into that center, and then we'll do this side. So these will cross over, create a little bit of dimensionality there in the center, which I like as well. In, bounce out. Okay. Now, let's take it off so you can see what it looks like. That's one of the things our tape is good for. If you need to inspect, you can pull that out, okay? And we have obviously some more fills here. We can use wavy lines. We can kind of make this come out as a line, and we could do some echoing like this. Anything to fill this in. So we're not, stuck or anything else. We've just put one element in, and we can easily add some more. When I put the tape on, I want the tape to be up here at the top, right where that key is. I don't want it to be out here because I don't want any flexing right there where the key is going to be. So turn this. If my piecing is accurate enough, I can just align right back here on the same reference line that I used before. And I don't even need to look back behind there. I can just trust that the ruler is going to go where I want it to go. Dip in and come out. Back to the center. If I need to, maybe I'll just check that my center is accurate. I don't want too many different centers, so I'm aligning right here with this purple intersection right there. There's a little line on this bottom border, and I'm just aligning it right at the intersection with that purple. I kind of like this because it reminds me of a flower. And let's see what we can do. Let's take this off and we'll put some little ovals in here. We have a really cute oval in this Fun and Fancy set, and I think it'll look good right here. Okay, so I don't have to do anything. I can just pull this out. Always put your tape back on right away so your key doesn't get lost. Okay, so right here, I don't know how big this is. This would be a good place to use the Sobiz ruler. Let me grab mine because that's a really quick, easy way to measure that. Sorry, it was a little far away, so I had to grab it. Okay, so let's see, how big is that? I don't know. Oh, it's like 3 1/4. Let's see what this oval can do. I don't know what it can do. Wait a minute, I have a great idea. Look, we have a bigger oval. Let's put that on there. Let me show you the two ovals that we have. This one, the depth, the length of it from this to this side, right through the center, that's 3 inches when you sew it. It's actually obviously bigger, 3 1/2, because it sews a 1/4 inch in. This one actually is the same cutout, right? But it's going to sew a 1/4 inch bigger here and a 1/4 inch bigger here. So this is 3 1/4. So I think this could fit very nicely right there by just scooting it back a little bit. What we're looking for right there is we want these two lines to be parallel, this green and yellow seam and this, right? And that's going to give us this 1/4 inch right here. And this is not, this line is longer than this line. So let's just put some fun flanges in there and we'll kind of keep our theme maybe of doing some cross hatching. I have an idea. I'll put this away. You get 2 ovals with this awesome set, which I love. Okay, so you're looking right down here, making sure that your spacing gauge is giving you the right distance. I'm going to push this ruler up all the way so that I can get that 1/4 inch. So I want to try to make these about the same, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're looking for the 2 lines to be parallel. Okay, here we go. It's a little bulky right there where the seam is, and it's a little bulky here too, right? So close that up. We'll come back in to the center. That'll put a little bit more quilting right there. Now, let's just turn this and we'll make it a 1/4 inch right there. And we'll do one more. It's crossing over the seam. That's okay. I don't care. And let's do one more, a 1/4 inch. Right there. What that does is really going to cross over the center seams right there and make sure that those center seams are secure all the way down. Okay, love it so far. Do you see right there it crossed over? I don't care. I'm good with it. You can make it not cross over if you don't like it. If that bothers you, you can change it. Okay, so we want to get right to the corner. I'm holding back and I've got to activate both of those. We're sewing kind of in this angle, so there's a little body contorting, right? But make the whole quilt sandwich come with you. Get yourself right to the corner and come back. Okay, and then tip it. You're measuring for that 1/4 inch right out by the seam. And it's okay if it varies a little bit. Nobody cares. It's fine. Touch the seam and come back to the center. Okay, and then we'll do one more. Okay, so this I would then want to do on the other side, right? So just pull these over here. And you'll see like once we do it, now we kind of know what we need to get. It'll be easier. Right to the corner. Oh, that one went badly measured. See, your spacing gauge is your friend. He went a little further than I wanted, but I don't care. When we ditch that area, it'll all work out. Okay, and then one more, 1/4 inch, crossing over that center seam, really tacks that center seam down. Okay, and then do it on the back side. We're looking for the 1/4 inch right there. Okay, so I'm using my whole hand. Both of my hands are going to work together to bring the quilt towards me. Okay, when I'm doing back and forth stitching like this, okay, let me show you. Right here. Ah, oh my gosh, I did it. Don't stop and out here. Come all the way back to your center point, and then you can continue sewing. What happens if we let go in the middle, we just don't get as clean of a line. So I recommend that. So a little tight for my finger there. I'm going to move my finger, get right to the seam, and come back. I don't want to move the ruler in that situation. I want to just keep it in the same spot. I feel good that that seam is going to be tacked down very securely. It's kind of bulky right there, so I have to move a little slowly. What I don't want is as I'm moving through this bulky area, because like right there, there's a huge seam right there, really big. Let me see if I can show you. Right there. He's bulky, right? So I just avoided him. Yes. Okay. But as I was pulling, I could tell that there's a little bit of pressure right there for this one. What I don't want to do is pull so hard that it suddenly goes and creates a really big long stitch and perhaps also flexes that needle. So if this were so big that is really a problem, you can use a clapper or a seam mallet and you can kind of bang on it actually and make it flatten out a little bit just by doing that. Okay? All right, so let's see, where are we gonna go? I think, let's put a little circle in here. I got an idea. Let's tack this off. Okay. He's got a lot of stitching there, so it won't matter if there's a lot of extra thread right there. Nobody will be able to tell. Okay, we'll cut that. In the Fun and Fancy set, there is a very, very cute 1-inch circle, and he can be used for lots of different things. So let me pull that out and see if we can do something fun with that. Wow, love it. So much fun. This is one of my favorite sets to be able to do those circles and pearls. This is the best training that you will ever get to make beautiful small circles. You sew on the ruler again and again and again. You are training your brain to feel the rotation so that you know just how to do it. And it's absolutely 100% credited to this template to why I can sew circles now. So if you want to do some training and get that free motion skill, I think that is an amazing way to do it. All right, so let's see. We have a nice big space right in here, in the center here, and I don't think that that should be left like that. I think we need a little bit more quilting in there. So let's line this up right on the center line. So it has all the quadrants right here, right here, right here. And I think that based on the size, we can only fit one of these in there. So we'll get it all lined up. And then what my plan is later on is I'm actually going to applique a little tiny circle inside just to bring your eye back to the center. So this will be the quilting that will actually go around that little circle, which is going to be helping give it a little bit more definition. So I'm all lined up. When I start, just start slowly and just keep all four corners of your fingers on your ruler. And we'll just put one more line of stitching in there because we can. Okay, I went around 2 times. I'm tacking it off, and now I can cut it. The reason I wouldn't want to use a larger circle right there is I don't really want to cut into my flower of my Circles on Quilts 21. If I were to use a 2-inch circle, I believe that it would cut in. The 2-inch circle is what we have inside of the sampler set. So that would be something you could do, but it would cross over these little points as this comes in. Let me bring it a little closer so you can see the detail that I'm talking about. Okay, you got these little guys right here. And if you have a really big circle, like a 2-inch circle, it's really tight to these. 1.5 could fit in here. If you do have the between the lines set, you could use your 1.5. But we're going to put a little applique right there, like a 1/2-inch circle. And I think that'll add a heavy pop of purple right there and put a little bit more detail to bring your eye into the center. So I love that we were able to do that. This 1-inch circle is skirting this seam intersection intentionally. If it's bulky right there, I don't want to have my needle go right through there if I don't have to. So that's just another way that we could add a little bit more quilting definition right to this area, but still make sure that it's quilted enough not to pop up. Okie doke. Let's see. Let's try one more. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll quilt right here on these edges. If I'm working on something and I might want to put some additional quilting into here, I'm going to actually put a border. I'll show you. Okay, right here, if I want to quilt in this yellow space, I want to mark the border right here because I'm actually going to put another element on here. Betty asked what color my top thread is. It's purple. It's actually a purple color. Can you see it? It's light, but it is purple. Right? It's going to show up pretty well on the yellow. It shows up really great on the green, I think. But on this color, it doesn't show up very well at all. So what I was going to mention is I like to baste a little bit. So let me show you how you can do that. If you need to baste your quilt on the edges because you don't want things popping up, right here, if I laid this right on the edge like that, that is a 1/4 inch right there. But if I'm basting, I want it actually to be a little bit closer than that. I want it to be inside that 1/4 inch. So I'm putting the edge of the foot just over a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to continue to do that same placement as I go around this area to secure that baste. Just a little bit over the edge. So you can see right here, there's a little gap. And we'll just kind of go fast, right? We don't want really tiny stitches. We want kind of big stitches, right? Something that we can maybe pull out later. Okay. So I'll sew a little slower, but I'm still going to move big. Okay. Well, and I'm just going to cut that so we can be finished with that. But anytime that you need to baste, your ruler can be really helpful for that. So now this is secured. It's not going to pop up or cause me any trouble. And it's inside any next seam line. Like if I wanted to do quilt as you go for the border or something like that. If it was the border, I might have to pull this out if I'm going to actually stitch it like this. Karen Taylor asked, she has long arm rulers. Can you use long arm rulers on the domestic machine? Karen, that's a really good question. It's highly variable in terms of the answer. Some machines are capable of doing that without any problem, and some absolutely are not. Low shank machines cannot use long arm rulers or really even these high shank rulers because the thickness of the ruler, when the foot is down in a low shank machine, there is not enough clearance back here for a fat ruler. That's why we have skinny rulers, because the low shank has very little clearance back here. However, on this machine right here, if I were to pull out my long arm ruler, let's see if I have one handy. I don't. Darn it. But the thicker ruler, there's a lot of room here. There's a lot of play, right? The way that this foot is designed, there's a bigger cutaway. But if I was on, say, for example, baby lock machine, baby lock will bind up with a long arm ruler underneath. It's just not as clean and comfortable. I can't move as smoothly. On a Bernina, yes, I can use my long arm rulers if I'm using the Bernina foot. So what I recommend is you test it out. You know, if you're interested in trying that on your machine, put it back there, make sure you can move freely without any obstruction, then you're probably okay. Always test before you do that. You know, we give you general guidelines, but every situation needs to be basically tested to make sure it's working well with your perfect setup at home. Okay, so I wanted to pull out one of our other rulers that's in that Fun and Fancy set, which I love so much. This is the back-to-back 3-2, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and use the center line right here. So this is where I want to use Donnell's ruler. So Colleen says you use your long arm rulers on your Baby Lock Aria, Colleen, is that what you're saying? So if you could confirm that. So I have a Baby Lock machine as well. I have the Altair. And when I use my long arm rulers at the back of the foot, it does bind up. Not 100% every single time, but enough that I don't like using it. So again, as I said, test and find out what is working for you and your setup. And I think that that is good general guidelines for everybody. Just make sure that it's working smoothly. Okay, let's measure this little guy. See how wide he is. About 1 and what? 1 1/4. What a weird number, huh? That's so annoying. Don't ask me. I don't know why. I just followed the pattern. So we're going to say if it's 1 and something, it's definitely going to be about 1/2 inch. And I'll just make it like a generous 1/2 inch right there. And that should be good enough. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on this side. Generous 1/2 inch. All right, and that kind of gives us a little line that we can follow. I want to sew with the narrowest curvature, right? And I can line it up right on there so that when I get to this point, then it'll be right in the center. So look what has to happen for that to happen. Right here, I'm not starting, you know, down here. I don't want to cut through this. So right there, that's where the ruler needs to go. So I'm going to line it up right there, right on the line. What's interesting about the back-to-backs, they are S curvatures. So they have the same base size. One is a up side and one is a down side. and they make really beautiful sweeping curves. You have to be able to sometimes flip them over in order to get them to do what you want. So I'm going to line it up. I'm trying to get my foot so that the needle will be right in the ditch. I didn't do a good job. I got to move it just slightly. Right there. Okay, so now we'll pick up that thread. Now I have 2 stitches, right? So it's going to be a little bit of an irritating thing because it's not going to behave the way I want it to. But that's okay. Quilts keep us on our toes, right? They do that all the time. All right, so put my needle right down, get those threads back there, and I'm going to line everybody up. I want to come right into the center, and it's going to fill up right to the top. Can you see that it has a 1/4 inch right at the top? Perfect. We'll get right to the corner. Now, this is the unique part of this back to back. If I want this design to be mirror imaged, I need to go like this and flip it over and align it the same way. I'm right on the same reference line. I should have a 1/4 inch right here. So we'll just double check that and make sure that we can sew it in. And then we'll just keep going. So it's pretty tight to the top, but I love how it looks. Okay, we're in the seam right here. And now we can fill these in. We can go ahead and put some little echoes in there. Let's fill the inside first, just so you can see how we fill it in. I'm going to turn it. Get some of these extra templates out of here. Because the back-to-back has lines on both sides, we can fill the curvature different ways. We're using the short side, but for example, if I wanted to, I can use this side and just push it up. In order for me to do it, I have to scoot in a little bit along the ditch, however wide I want my gap to be. Let's see how wide our gap is. I want to use one of the lines on the ruler just to keep me aligned. So this line right here, I need to move in just a little bit more so that I can get it aligned on the other side. Okay, right there. So keep this same center line. That's the one we had aligned right at the corner right there. And now we can echo this line. Okay, and then mirror image it, flip it the other way. Keep it aligned on that second reference line. And now we can put a little echo in there. Now, if I want to use the same reference lines every time, this is where I want to put a ruler sticker so that I know which reference line I'm using, because there's a lot of lines on there. So sometimes it can be a little tricky to know which line I've set it up to use. So I think 2 points of reference will be good. It's this line and it goes all the way across. So as I'm aligning it each time, then I need to move up so that I can push down enough to get that to the next line. Let's see. So we'll go this way. I'm inside the ditch a little bit. And we'll scoot down. Oh, I don't think that was very helpful, was it? Yeah, it was. We're right there on that intersection. Right there. The arrow is right where he wants to be. I don't know if that gives us anything. There's the 1/4 inch right there. It's going to sew pretty flat. I think we'll leave that where it is. Sometimes when I look at it and I don't perceive that there's any value to the next one, we'll come out here and we'll put the echoes in this way as well, so that this whole thing will have that undulating echo. And one of the ways that I'll create some more relief is there's a top and a bottom, so they'll have a center channel. So maybe we'll put some little circles in the center channel just to put some additional detail in there. All right, let's go ahead. I'll tie that off. Since we're in the ditch already, let's just stitch it in. Right? Might as well. We're here. All right. So I'm going to try to get right next to my ditch, right up to that corner. And then we'll just go the other way. So again, I can adjust the ruler if it's getting a little too far away from my ditch. Oh, did anybody see that? Oh my goodness. 2-finger safety rule, right? We don't sew off the edge of our ruler because then we just go crazy. That's why I always try to kind of use this as a guide. When you're at the bottom of your ruler, don't try to sew right to the precipice right there, okay? Just give yourself a little room and then you would move your ruler down. You could measure the spacing again and just keep on sewing, okay? So right now, let's see where we're at. We've kind of done so many of the different areas. I don't know if we want to repeat. We have one last block, but I don't know what I want to do in that block yet. So it's very busy. So let's talk about that. There's not very much seams in the way right there. Right here, there's not very much seaming, but this is not going to show. So if I was choosing a quilting design for this space right here, I don't know if I want to spend very much time worrying about that. So something that would be just simple right here is ditching it within all the other ditching that you're going to do. You could put a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch echo, which would be consistent with some of the echoes we've done in other areas. So you're repeating the same echo. And then you can literally just put like a curvy S right there and a curvy S right there. So we have plenty of different rulers can do that. I'll go ahead and chalk it out so you can see the relationship. So it's not complicated, but we do need enough quilting that the area is going to look quilted. Let me see if we can make this show. Oh, can you see it? All I did is put an X. So I got the center position, and I'm going to go ahead and put the 1/2 inch echo, the same echo that we did before. That way we're repeating elements of the quilting, and that'll make it very easy. Let's see. Okay. Put the ruler on first. That will give us the spacing that we decided on. Okay. Oh, pick up our bobbin thread. And then we'll bring ourselves right back to where we were, where our thread is. Okay, there we go. So what is the benefit of those diamond diagonals that we made? Those tell us when our needle should be in the proper position to rotate right there. But if this looks like it's less than a 1/4 inch, I'm going to check it before I go all the way to that diagonal. I got a little room, so far so good. So I'm going to trust it. That matters if my piecing is bad or good, right? We need this 1/4 inch in order to have that same spacing, so I don't want to close it too much. So again, right here, this is what I'm looking at to get that 1/4 inch right there. Lining it up at the back so that I can have both pieces aligned. So right there, for some reason, since there's no seaming, I'm going to bring my foot down just a little bit because it's flagging. So when that happens, when I can see the fabric bumping up and down, that's a sign that maybe my foot is too high. So I'll go ahead and listen to that and make the adjustment. Right to the diagonal line. There's the 1/4 inch right there. And I'll close the design. Let's get the quilt up on the surface so everybody comes together. And right here, I want to use my spacing gauge so we close everybody very precisely. I don't want to guess. I want to make sure that it closes very precisely right there. Fortunately, the back is kind of busy, so it won't show that. Now I'm going to backtrack, get right to the corner, because now we're going to put some additional elements right in here. Okay, So we have this one. This is the last one from that Fun and Fancy set. We haven't really used it much, but I think this might be a good place for it. So get that right here. I want to be able to come in right at 1/4 inch. So I need to adjust this a little bit. I'm going to make this line be on the diagonal, which will help control and keep it the same for each side. And I'm measuring 1/4 inch. So that means that this is pushed down. It's not straight on the line. Just this is aligned. So it's going to be a little bit of a oblongy shape as it goes, but I don't care. It'll be the same oblongy shape. That's the key. Right into the center. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing here. The foot is the guide, and I'll just tip this and get myself right into this bottom section right there, right at the correct spot. Okay, then the same thing. We want to get this side and align right there at the 1/4 inch at the top. That's going to get us back up there, right to the center. Once we're in the center, we can do the 2 sides and complete the design. So we'll use the same random rule. The foot is the anchor right here, and we're tipping the edge of the template to get us right to our corner right there. Okay, right at 1/4 inch. I think he just moved right to there. Okay. Try to get right to the corner as I look, and then we're going to push it over to the other side and check that we're going to get right to the corner. Straighten out that line just like we said, and then tipping this so that he will be touching. Let me just tell you what happened. So I had too much pressure on the sandwich, and when the needle lifted up, the sandwich just shot out. So what needs to happen when you take the first stitch, you can hold the ruler, but try not to press against the needle, because then that's going to give you that big long stitch right there that I just fixed. So I'll have a little extra stitching down there at the bottom. Okay, and then this will be the last one. The corner is right here where my finger is, and I'm going to line this line up in line with the needle right there and tipping this until I get the 1/4 inch. So again, this is some of that random rule theory. I'm making a repeatable randomization so that I can make all of these the same using the template that I have. It doesn't cross over our little border detail, which I like, but it gets me back to the center at 1/4 inch so that the design will look nice and clean. So I'm measuring right there, getting myself right back to the center. Okay, no pressure, right? Relax. No pressure. Okay, get myself back up to that center top right there, right in the center position. Okay, and then we'll close it. The foot here is always the anchor. I can line this right up, and then once I've got that, then I tip and I measure for that 1/4 inch to get to the back. Okay, all right. All right, I'm right at the bottom there. A little bit of stitching to tack it in. And then we're done. I do need to pull that away to lengthen that bobbin thread. If I don't pull it away and create a little slack in the bobbin, then when I try this and I try to pull the bobbin up, it won't come up because there's no slack in the thread. So pulling your sandwich away is valuable. It helps you pick up that bobbin more easily. All right, get all of those closed. So this is my ode to spring right here. This is just a fun, show us the back. So I will tell you, Jamie, I'll show you, but I don't know that you'll be able to see very much because the back is the floral. So it's going to be very hard to actually see it, but I will. is it? There it is. You see? So right here, we've got our little square, and then when we ditch it, it'll actually have another 1/2 of an inch border. So there'll be a little flange, and then there's some little bit of crossover right there in the center. I'm totally fine with that. Doesn't bother me one bit. I like it to be the same crossover. Like I wish one of these crossed over more, but the reason it might not is if my piecing isn't even, right? So we chose the center, but if one seam is a little wider or something like that, you may get slight variations because that's a very small amount of overlap right there. And you can control for that. If you don't like the overlap, you could use something that is a little bit of a wider but skinnier dip. Like mine was based on a 3-inch for the oval. So it's very flat, but like if I used a 2.5 or 2, it would be a deeper cut, but it wouldn't be as flat here. It would go up further and come in tighter. Okay. So let's see where we're at. So we used basically all the tools in there. You definitely can see I'm using my slider. Okay, I don't know how I ever sewed without it. I use it all the time. It is definitely something that I recommend to every person. If you are quilting and you don't have it, you're working harder than you have to, right? It's worth having this. I'm using 9014 top stitch needle, right? And this is isocord, and I have the same color thread in the top and the bottom. And that's just because, you know, this is a quilt that you're not going to see a lot of that quilting on the back because that fabric is very busy. It's very pretty, but it's very busy. So there's no reason to have some elaborate thread combination because it's not going to give any value to you. You can work really hard and it's not going to do anything. So making those decisions can really help you. This is that center portion of it. Right? We put our little center detail, looks like a dogwood flower, love it. And like I said, we'll probably put at least one echo line in here to put a little bit more. Donna Dean asks, do you use polish on a Supreme glider? Well, I don't know because I don't have one of those, but I have a So Steady glider. So ours is different. The Supreme glider is pink on the back, and ours is white. So the reason I like ours is I feel like no matter what, this is not moving at all. I mean, I don't have any tape on this or anything, but if I pull on this, like I could move the machine before I would move this, even if it's dirty, right? Even if this is a little bit linty, it sticks really, really well. So definitely give yourself a chance to ease up your burden. Let me show you real quick all the tools that are in this fun and fancy set and what else you get with it. Does not come with feet or with a crosshair marking tool. That is something that you either would have to get in a different set or you probably would maybe already have. So it's technically 6 pieces, okay, because there's 2. And these are not the same size. And I sometimes like to use this because it's easy to not have a key, right? If you just need to go bump, bump, bump. I like the outside arc, but this gives you 2 different sizes of ovals, which is really helpful. 1-inch circle. This is the one that we use for the tulip. We used it going out this way. So this is the Spinifex number 8 at 5.5. And then this is the Circles on Quilts 21. This sews out at 7.5, which is 2 of these in the straight line. And then we showed you a couple of ways that you can use your back-to-back. I have an absolute ton of these different back-to-backs in all different sizes. I love them. They're super awesome. Oh, I never said that. No, don't polish it. I got distracted. I'm sorry. Somebody else answered for me. You guys are so good. Yes, don't polish the white ones. Just rinse them off with cool water. There's no need for any polishing. This is a texturized surface that's already smooth and it doesn't require any assistance, right? The green one you definitely want to polish because it will definitely work a lot better over time. I don't polish this one at all. I just rinse it or just wipe it with a baby wipe. I wanted to show you one other thing. I think my husband maybe had it out, but I don't know where he put it. Oh, let me stand up. Let's see if it's over here. Yes, he's so good. He did it. He put everything up. So this is the Fun and Fancy. I'll scoot these over so you can see the book. So I haven't pumped my book in a long time, but we have a lot of new users. And the reason that I wrote the book was because people kept saying, oh, do you have the book? Do you have a book? Do you have a book? So I was like, okay, I guess I need a book. So it took me about a year to write, and the way that it's organized, it uses the tools in the Fun and Fancy set. It's very difficult to have a generic ruler work handbook if you have thousands of different templates. So the way this is organized is the designs right here are based on each set, and they give you different options. So these are the names, and these are all the ones that you can do with the simple oval. And it's only a sample of what you can do, right? It's not an exhaustive, it's just a representative sample. I tried to put a few designs that can show you different ways that you can use each of these tools. And the way that this is structured is you're going to have different options, right? So if this is oval clamshell, that's just the basic offset. But then you can do these flourishes right here on each side. And kind of how it's structured is this would be your center needle position, right? The green circle. And this I marked with some grids. So then as you're going along, you could move up and you would do the next one. And then you do the next one. So it tells you what alignment that you need to have, where the needle is supposed to start, what template are you using. And each one of the templates has what I call the technical page. So I'll show you real quick. And then I'll stop talking, but you can't know how great these tools are if we don't give you some information. The technical page is what is the template? What are the important relationships about it? So with the simple oval, the one that's in this set is the 3 by 1.5. And that's its sewing size, not if I measured it, but if I actually sewed it. So the distance here is 3 inches and it's 1.5 inch wide. So it's twice as long as it is wide. All of the simple ovals have that same relationship. This tells you that there's others in this set, right? And then here are the reference markings on the template. How do you use them? There's a 45-degree angle mark right here. And then you can easily switch them out because you've got the key. And the key has the little alignment guide on there as well. So each one of the tools in Fun and Fancy have a page like that that talks about how you can use the tool, like this reference line, what's it for? So if you were interested in that, you can go ahead and order that through your regional Sew Steady dealer. They have the reseller exclusive kit out right now, and the MSRP is $130, and it includes the full class, which includes the free class that comes with this, which is the Fun and Fancy sampler, which is this design right here on the front, that design. So this part right here comes with the purchase of the book and the template. This is a class that's about 3 hours. Then in addition to that, the class set has another, 10 plus hours, and it shows you how to do every design in the book physically on a quilt. So that's what I wanted to share, that, part of that is people sometimes need that written guidance. They need a little bit more information, and the Fun and Fancy was designed to do that. You can also take other templates that have similar usage. For example, this is a Spinifex, right? So you could use the instruction in Fun and Fancy and use it the same for virtually any Spinifex that you have. Plus, you can always match up templates and mix and match to do things. The one thing that this book has is it has a little design guide on the back. And these were ways that the templates were then employed to quilt an actual block, right? And the back of the book shows a little bit clearer what those lines might look like, something like that. So that's a suggested idea of how I could use those templates and how I could use the markings on the block. and actually quilt that block if I wanted to. Now there's no piecing instructions. This is quilting only. But if you want to, there is a patchwork pattern that goes with this also that uses the Sew Steady quarter and half square triangle rulers. So that also has a video class, and that is also available through your Sew Steady retailer. So Donna, that was your question, right? It does not have any piecing directions. That is a separate book. Let's see if I have that book. So I made a pattern also. This is the pattern to make the quilt, okay? And it has piecing directions, okay? And when it says 3-inch finished, the reason it says that, the 3-inch finished would be a 3.5-inch pieced before you sew it in. The reason that I'm giving you these numbers is because when you use the Westerly cutting triangle, that's what it says. It says 3-inch finished. It doesn't say 3.5, which is the size that you're actually cutting. Let me show you. So these are what the Westerly tools look like, right? So this is making quarter square triangles from 2 to 6, okay? And this is a straight of grain right here. Your bias is going to be cut in. And I'll just put this card behind here so you can see. So this pattern uses Leonie West's cutting method to make things fast and easy. Okay, so if I say 3-inch finished, you're literally going to line this up and cut it on the 3-inch finished like that. It's already factoring in the seam allowance. So when you follow this, if I cut this triangle, that is going to give me the 3-inch quarter square. Yes, you can use it with AccuQuilt. There are some different guides that you can transition. If it's supposed to be 3-inch finished, it's a 3.5-inch square. How big is it? There's a lot of different charts that show you that out there, so you can definitely cross over. You know, if you don't like the directions and you don't have the Westerly cutting, it's still going to teach you that, and the videos show you how to piece that. I believe this book is $25. I think both of my patterns are 20. Well, this one's 28 if you just bought the book. And it's important to know that if you purchase the Fun and Fancy reseller exclusive, you will not get a printed book. You will get a digital copy only because it's packaged in the cute little squares. So you're going to be able to download this. This is a full color with illustrations. I do not recommend that you print it yourself. It's way too expensive. So if you want the book is $28. You could just buy the book. Okay, but it only works essentially with the Fun and Fancy set. Anyway, that's enough of a sales pitch. I know. I'm just telling you that those tools are out there. Yes, I do get a bump. Of course I do. Because I wrote the book. I worked hard for it. So I hope that you find it useful and valuable. And have a great day. Happy quilting. Go try it. Yes, you can do this on your quilt. Really, you can. It's a little bit of work, but of course it's work. It's much more work without the rulers, right? The ruler will not make your quilt lighter. It will make your line straighter. So keep that in mind, okay? All right, you guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for waiting.